So we got a package today, and I'm shocked at how quickly this freaking thing arrived. I'm gonna have to do this one-handed. If you guys have ever used JAGS, they have an awesome price match system where you just submit a link, give them the price, and they match it for you. So, as you can see, got some brake stuff. I think I mentioned this in the last video, but I will be going with a aftermarket pedal box, which, as you could have already guessed, is what this is. So, pull this out of the plastic. So as you can see, there are 3 separate mounting points for 3 separate master cylinders, one for the clutch, one for the front brakes, and one for the rear brakes, which is exactly what I'll be doing. But Wilwood makes this really cool reverse operation pedal kit where this action will actually push on the master cylinder, and here's a photo of what one looks like that Raw Brokerage did on a 240Z, and I'm basically just mimicking what they've done there. So at this point, I'm going to grab some square tube metal from Ross with some thin gauge steel to create the plate that will mount to the firewall, and then the square tubing runs, basically cages this, and you know mount that. It attaches that to the plate, and then ultimately it goes on the firewall. So never done anything like this, so this should be pretty interesting. I believe the clutch, which is this side, will be a 3/4 bore. The other one's not too sure about. Like I said, I'll be doing front and rear disc brakes in the Z, rear being the 300ZX twin turbo brakes, the front being probably the big T3 kit up front. Okay, today we're working on something a little different. We're waiting for our master cylinders to show up in the mail. In the meantime, there is one thing that I've been meaning to get done, and it's these holes in this transmission tunnel that I made after we ripped out that supporting reinforcement plate, or not plate, but reinforcement piece in the transmission tunnel. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here's that reinforcement plate that Ross put in. Looks great. This, not so much. So it looks like somebody just took like a freaking 22 and shot through my transmission tunnel. Looks awful. So luckily, I have a welder. This little Hobart, it's a Hobart 140. Perfect for what we want to do and repair this transmission tunnel. So the other tool we're gonna need is this brass backing piece. I'm not sure what the technical term for it is or what the name is, but basically this is a magnet, and you stick this to your, in our case, transmission tunnel, and then this piece goes over the back side of the hole that you're welding up. So basically this is made out of brass, and by using your steel MIG welder, you basically fill holes, and when filling them, this will be on the back side, and so steel's not going to weld itself to brass. So that's what you use to prevent that, and it actually, its main purpose is to fill in holes on metal and such. So pretty handy little thing. You can find these on eBay or whatever. I'll put a link in the description for this. But I got all of the visible holes welded up. There's probably going to be some pinholes I'll have to clean up after I grind down these welds, but check it out. Filling holes, not exactly pretty, but we'll make them pretty. We'll clean them up. But I'm happy to have this fixed. So we'll go ahead and clean those up now. Okay, finally done with this damn transmission tunnel hole patching. This is not one of those fun jobs. I mean, whenever you break out the grinder, you're not gonna have a good time. But all is necessary. So let's show you what we got done after a little whole bar welding action and grinding. Looks pretty dang good. Kind of hard to tell with the camera, but it's very smooth. I took my time grinding it and it looks 10 times better. We're back, and as you can see, we have a master cylinder. So these are the Tilton 75 series compact master cylinders. There are 3 of them. The boxes are over there. This particular one is 3/4, as you can see stamped on the side there. So this is going to provide brake control, and there's another one that's going to provide clutch control. These are really nice Tilton pieces. Like I said, these are Tilton racing master cylinders, and very lightweight aluminum. Deciding on sizing of the master cylinders, you need to go on and contact Tilton. They'll send you a worksheet. You'll submit all your information, caliper sizes, rotor size, diameter, all kinds of fun stuff, pedal ratio, and then they'll spit out some numbers at you. I ended up being 3/4 on the rear brakes and 5/8 on the front brakes, and then I just did a 3/4 for the clutch. So at this point, we're about ready to jump into building this bracket for the pedal box. So what we are going to start by doing, I'm going to bolt in the factory stuff and measure this distance and kind of see, just for reference, what kind of measurements we come up with, and then from there I'll pull it out. I'm going to have to chop it up quite a bit and just leave the remaining steering column bracket there. Then we should be ready to start mocking up our bracket, probably using some mock-up cardboard, and then building it from metal. So we'll start by putting in the factory brake pedal assembly and go from there. Now that we have the factory pedal box assembly in here, it's literally just being suspended in here with this one bolt. Doesn't need to be solid. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure this distance and then the distance behind it. Like I said, just to get a reference for where the stock factory pedals land and compared to the pedal box. Ideally, we'll have the pedals land kind of where the factory ones do currently, based on our bracket and how far we bring the square tubing out. We should be able to accomplish that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. About 7.5 inches. Figured I'd show this thing off. Took me about 10 minutes to assemble all these damn master cylinders on here, but as you can see, these Tilton master cylinders just work great with this Wilwood pedal. Man, this thing looks so cool. It's going to be so nice in the car. Still need to put the pedals themselves on, but. Alright guys, what I'm doing now is measuring out the template cardboard piece and cutting it 9.5 by 5 inches is what I measured for my first measurement. Go ahead and mark this out. So this will be the plate that will be used to actually mount to the firewall, likely with bolts and nuts. And this is purely just for checking that I'm ballpark by cutting out a physical shape of the size that I measured. 9.5 by 5. There is where our plate is going to be. So there you have it. That looks about right. And I will be using the existing holes. I will close up the holes that the actual master cylinders come through with the rod and all that, but that's kind of the idea there.
9.5 by 5.
Okay, so I'm kind of putting together this little fixture to suspend the brake pedal up. So there you go. So you just mount the pedal box up on top of this deal and mock it up, see how it goes. Okay. So this is kind of the idea. But, fuck. Unfortunately, I need to go left and okay, so continuing on with our pedal box progress, ahead of beginning the construction of the bracket, I went ahead and placed a little order a week or so ago for Z power steering. Now, there are some options out for these S30 cars as far as the power steering goes, but after some conversation with some fellow members, this is what I landed on, and this is what most will agree is the best choice for the car. Let's go ahead and get this bad boy open. And without this, it's hard to know if my bracket I'm building from scratch will interfere. So this is going to be very helpful. Okay, I went ahead and took it upon myself to remove it from the box and show you guys what is in the package. As you can see, you got your big 45 amp motor, and I assume, let's see, I'm trying to figure out, I think this is, so yeah, this is the steering wheel end. Not super familiar with how this all connects. I haven't looked at mine in a while, but I think you have some sort of shaft that connects onto the end of this, and then you have like a collar up to your wheel. But then this looks like more or less factory stuff that's just been kind of retrofitted, outer sleeve, and this splined end that goes into what appears to be this guy. So then these are your U-joints and such. This is the end that goes to, so this is obviously the end that goes down into your bushing, and then the other side connects to that little rod. Well, not little, but that rod that runs to your rack. And this end connects here, I believe. So that's kind of how it goes together. I believe this is the plate that attached to the firewall. Replaces whatever's there from factory. And then this is the brain. So I assume this guy takes inputs and determines how much amperage to give the unit based on that. Looks like pretty straightforward connections for the most part. Nothing crazy there. That's kind of an overview of what comes in the packaging. So at this point, we'll go ahead and move on to the pedal box. I have some thoughts and updates on that, and so we'll go ahead and move over there. Okay, well, I've decided to start drilling holes for the mounting plate. I've already taken the punch and punched my holes in the corners, and I will be drilling holes now. Like I said, one in each corner. That should be sufficient for what we're doing, and then we'll bring the square tubing outward, and then we'll do a little reinforcement triangle piece, kind of like the Raw Brokerage version piece. So let's do it. Alright, what we're looking at here is the factory steering box. I keep going back and forth on the route I want to take once I think about things, but I think the wisest thing to do, honestly, would be, this thing needs cut because I'm going to use this bracket portion of this pedal box. This is the bracket where this bolts to the tab on the chassis itself, as well as these two bolts. And from here on I need. From here back I don't. So the idea would be to cut this, and then we can get the Z power steering up in the car, because it makes me nervous to drill holes for the mounting plate for the pedal box without this in the car. Because once you drill holes in the firewall, you're kind of stuck position wise with the pedal box, and I know where I want it to land, but if something doesn't fit and I have to move it for whatever reason, I've already drilled holes in the firewall. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this, put the Z power steering in the car, then put my pedals in the car without the plate or anything, and see where the pedals land with the motor. The motor is kind of the deciding factor on position and all that, but and then from there I should be able to determine where I want to mount that plate and then build our square tube brackets. So let's go ahead and cut this. So there's the bracket. Now this still need to be trimmed right here to help clearance the pedals, specifically the master cylinders. It's right in that region. So, but we're gonna go test fit. We're gonna go mount up the Z power steering now. As you can see, I already went ahead and put the bracket on here. You can see how this attaches to the chassis right here. So, and then this is where the rest of the pedal box stuff went from the factory, but obviously we have the power steering unit. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt this guy up. And this is gonna be a little tricky by myself. We can handle it. I think I got it on backwards. Biscuits, I put it on backwards. I knew that didn't look right. We got the unit rotated. I didn't realize you can actually adjust the position of the motor under the dash. And this is gonna be perfect since I'm not using a lot of the accessories under the dash that come from factory. Okay, initially we had the thing backwards, but so now this gives us an idea of kind of clearance in this area when the motor's in here, which makes me feel much better. Let's see what we can do now. Okay, after toying with the pedal box with the Z power steering in the car for a bit, I decided to go yet another route, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and just build this bracket around the pedal box and box that in. I think doing that first, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You can't really screw it, I mean, you can't screw it up, but as far as like positioning, I mean, it's just gonna sit like directly off this thing, so maybe like a 1/2 inch of clearance in that direction. So that's what we'll go ahead and do now. Use a square tubing and build one here, run one across, then one down the other side, and then we'll do kind of a triangle reinforcement on the side. Okay, so we have our 7.5. I think these ones are 7.5. No, I'm sorry, these are 7. These are a little long, which is fine. I cut these a little long just to be safe, and I'm gonna go ahead and weld these to this plate, centered everything's square. That's kind of the general idea. So we'll tack those in, probably tack the piece across, and kind of get everything assembled, and then mark the holes, the 2 mounting holes on these side pieces to bolt the pedal box to it. Drill the holes, mount everything up, cut these to length, cut them down, and then probably drop it in the car, mark our corner holes on the firewall based on where the final position is, and bolt it in and call it a wrap. Okay, so this bottom side's a little hot, but I don't know if you can see that, but there's our bracket. Take this, sit right on top. Perfect. I've now cut this piece, the cross brace, and now I'm gonna weld this guy up. Did a little test fitting on the car to make sure this doesn't interfere with the Z power steering motor, which it doesn't, and hoping that the protrusion of the master cylinders over the top, I'm sorry, this is technically the bottom, it's flipped, but basically they stick out this way. Hopefully those don't hit the power steering either, but I think we're good, and we're gonna do some more test fitting, so we'll get it figured out. So on to welding. Okay, so although my welds aren't the prettiest, they are strong and they will suffice. But that's kind of, sort of the finished product outside of drilling my bolt holes, which I will do after we test fit it. But here's just kind of mocking it up. It looks pretty damn good, turned out pretty good. Now if I can just bolt it in, get the bolt holes drilled, secure the pedal box to the bracket itself in the car, I'll feel pretty damn good. So let's see if we can go ahead and do that. Okay, well, bad news. Well, doing some final fitment things, and we've run into a little issue. Let me flip on the light here for you guys. So, if you can't already tell, putting the steering gear in, it appears as though the pedals are too far to the right, blocking that shaft. Yeah. And there's nothing I hate more than drilling holes that are incorrectly placed, or drilling holes in general in these old cars. This is where I'll end tonight, but I'm gonna have to re-drill holes, shift it left about 1 bolt hole. I'll measure again. Outside of that, everything else fits. Everything else fits good. We've made huge progress. It's just one little setback. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So we will clean up, revisit tomorrow, and get it wrapped up by tomorrow night. Okay, we're back on the pedal box, home stretch, but a couple things I've been thinking about the last day or two since I filmed last, and we got the pedal box in there, but we positioned it incorrectly, is plating / reinforcing the area where the pedal box bolts to. So that's actually one of the weak points in this car, is the pedal box area. The firewall area where the pedals mount to is actually a weak point. And considering we don't have the support of the steering column bracket anymore, it's especially important that, and the fact that we're not doing a brake booster, so it's all gonna be manual pedals. There might be a little more pressure on the pedals just because they'll be fully manual pedals. Plating the area up there is something I think I'm gonna go ahead and do. It's just gonna be a little wider, a little bit taller, and it's basically gonna encompass the whole area where the pedal box bracket mounts to, and that way we can avoid as much flexing as possible. The only issue I'm seeing is that there's some brackets in the way, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So as you can see, there's our bracket. Basically gonna be a little taller than that bracket, and it's gonna run all the way to that edge there where that seam sealer is in the corner. And over here, as you can see, the little bracket is in the way up there, which I'm not entirely sure what that's for. It doesn't look like it has a bolt through it. Probably has something to do with the way the dash mounts, perhaps. I'm not sure, but probably just gonna run right up to that bracket and call it good. So it'll just give a little more reinforcement for the, like I said, the pedals, and allowing it to resist the flex of pressing on it. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. But first, my damn heater bottle ran out. It cost me 15 bucks and it ran out like a lot quicker than I thought, which kind of sucks, but oh well. We're gonna go get that refilled and cut that plate, weld it in, then do our final bolt in of the pedal box. The other thing I'm gonna do, I probably already mentioned this, but I'll put a triangular piece here to counter the flexing from the pedals. Whenever you push on the pedal, there's gonna be an upward force, or sorry, downward if you're looking at it in the car, upward if you're looking at it right here. That's gonna try and basically put the pressure all on these points. So in order to counter that, we're gonna distribute that force across these triangles in order to prevent flexing, make it stronger, and all that jazz. So we'll go ahead and cut those pieces now and we'll measure those out. So there's our square. Now when you just put a cut down the center of it, clean up the edges and the triangles. I did mismeasure. I'm sure a lot of you caught it, but I did not end up. This whole square thing and cutting it in half did not work out, and I have extra. In order to make these fit, probably need to grind down this tip a little bit, but also need to grind down these welds to make space for it. So we'll go ahead and do that. I have made a huge mistake. I thought I'd be wise and put these triangles here, right below the bars, to give it extra reinforcement. I've seen it done on this side, but I was thinking, put it right below. That'll be stronger. Well, turns out the bolts are supposed to come through the bar, and they can't if it's right there. So I just laid all these welds, and I'm gonna have to cut them off. God damn it. Live and learn. Okay, this is a very drawn out episode over multiple days, but here we are starting another day working on the pedal box. It should be the last one because all we gotta do is weld in our reinforcement plate to the dashboard, not the dashboard, to the firewall, and then drill holes for the pedal box, correct holes for the pedal box, and then then we're done. Just set it in there, make sure it clears the Z power steering, and that's it. So, but unfortunately the memory card filled up last time I was out here filming, and I didn't get everything filmed that I wanted to. But let me show you what I got done on the pedal box. Alright, so here it is. I have it in the vise, as you can see, and as you can also see, I've added the side, I don't know if you call them like Christmas trees, but they're basically braces. We were filming last time, I made the big mistake of placing these, or I started to anyway, placing this in the middle of this. Well, I have bolts that run through, so that wouldn't work, so I ended up having to cut it off on, it was this side, and it doesn't look bad at all. So I learned a lot building this thing, but my welds aren't professional or pretty, but probably some of the best welds I've ever laid. Yes, probably shitty to many, but not too bad for someone that never welds. I don't know if you can see it there. and I got a bunch of you know, spatter I need to take a wire wheel to, but overall this thing turned out great and I'm super happy with it. And you know, I drilled the holes and everything, and the Wilwood pedal box is secured to it. So at this time I'm gonna go ahead and turn my attention to the firewall reinforcement plate. And let me show you guys what I have in mind. Still have the Z power steering in here, but the idea is to cut a plate that will run from the edge of these brackets all the way up here to this corner, down, and then all the way to where it meets this little plated piece, which is already reinforcement that's from the factory, that is for the steering column there, which is just again going to be another layer of stiffening or reinforcement for the pedal, since now we are going from a brake boosted pedal to a manual pedal. And then I got to thinking about it, and this is also nice because it's going to cover up the giant factory holes for the master cylinders up here, but I'm also going to take a wire wheel to this and run beads around the perimeter of these, so that not only will the plate be attached with stitch welds around the perimeter on the inside, but it will also be attached, you know, in the middle or to the side, if you will, here. So that'll allow me to cover up this hole. I was wondering if I were going to need to cut a little plate out for these to fill in those holes, but that's actually going to take care of that, and then I'll just use some body filler to fill in the interior of the welds. So that's my game plan right now. I ran that by a couple people just to make sure I'm not missing anything, because like that pedal box where I welded the triangles right under, sometimes I just don't realize things aren't going to work until I'm like halfway through, and then I think, oh crap, this isn't going to work how I intended. So this isn't even a huge reinforcement piece, but that's kind of my theory behind it and how I plan to proceed with it. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and measure out the size of that plate, and we'll go ahead and get to cutting that out. Okay, I lied. This is actually what the shape's gonna look like. So as I literally just explained, I was planning on just doing this rectangular area here, but why wouldn't I just add on this area as well to counter this this kind of flexing action? Well, one of the bigger reasons was I wanted to use these two existing holes because I'm going to run my remote reservoirs, but I don't think compromising strength for using existing holes is a legitimate reason to not plate a larger area. So plate's going to run here, 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 and then just kind of work around this bracket. The pedals are going to be in this region, but considering it's all going to be connected, and I'm going to make a weld here to connect to this whole square, is all going to be reinforced. Here's what I've come up with. After some fine tuning, you can see that this is a pretty significant plate. I mean, it's giant. So this is going to be awesome for reinforcing that pedal box. So no going back here. All these holes are welded up. I'll just need to grind them down. But now I will go ahead and drill the holes for the pedal box. I'll get that lined up, but before we do that, we're not going to make another stupid idiot mistake and not mount the Z power steering in 100% before we do that. So let's go ahead and do that now. Holy crap, this freaking episode is taking forever. I've been on this thing for like 2 weeks trying to get this pedal box done, but we are finally just wrapping up the final step here and finishing that out, and it's just a matter of drilling the holes for the box to mount to the firewall through our new reinforcement plate. Holy crap, it's a miracle. Finally, after much trial and error and this and that, the pedals are finally in. Jesus. So, as you can see, I think the travel and everything is going to be, I mean, it'll work great. One thing I did do, and what's nice about these Wilwood pedals, is that you can offset them. So I bolted it. I would definitely encourage everybody, if you're doing anything with reinforcing the brakes or upgrading your pedals, is to add this reinforcement plate. That's just a common thing for these cars. It's just super thin metal, and halfway through I decided to add that. So yeah, overall this was a much longer process than I was planning on. Like I said, it's like -10 degrees here in Nebraska. This heater really didn't do much. I mean, I'm still seeing my breath in this garage. Cold as hell, but I got it done. Didn't have much to do here today. Just finishing up some small stuff. Still have some small details to work out. The brake pedal switch and the clutch pedal switch, just need to add some tabs. I need to clean up the bolt holes in the firewall. On the other side, there's some welds that are interfering. Just small little things, but overall, yeah, we knocked it out. It's pretty much done, and we're gonna move on to the next thing once we get those small items done. So not sure what the next step is. Probably brake lines, and then we'll see what happens from there. But if you like what you saw, just subscribe and follow the build. We got another piece on the way in the mail from Illuminati. I'm excited to show you guys. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll see ya.